preparing to live stream the meeting.
Like takeoff.
We're live.
Welcome to Nothing Extra. This is a non-duality meetup with from serious to curious to serious. We have many very special guests. We have Kelly, Sammy. We have John, Mohammed. We have Nickey. We also have Harvey here, and co-hosts Anne and Daron. Anne and Daron, go ahead, please.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. So,
hey everyone, good to see you.
So the theme this week is death and what was it again?
Free will.
Free will. Death and free will. Okay, that's a really interesting one. Would anyone like to start on that? How do you feel about saying something about that, John?
All righty. Hi, everyone. Death and free will. What are we talking about first, death or free will?
Let's talk about free will first.
All right. That's a goodie for me. All right, free will. All right. So basically the premise or where free will, the idea of free will starts from the idea or the belief that I am real, right? So once the I am real, once there's a belief or thinking that I am real, it engenders that I have a life and that I can do something about my life, and I am the doer, and that I can do something. So it assumes that I am the doer, right? So free will comes in where choice comes in, because once the understanding, or the not even understanding, but the belief that I am real comes in, there must be an other. There must be something else. There must be, this is my life, and I can do something about it. And free will then says, the idea of free will then says basically that I can change. I can strive. I can seek. I can do something to change what is, But what is already all there is. It's already complete. It's already whole. But because of the sense of separation, the feeling of need or lack, the seeker generally, or the seeker naturally, just decides, the seeker, and it owns that. It owns that thinking, thinking that it can change something. Something might change apparently, but nobody's doing it. But free will says that I am real. I can do something about my life. I can change it, and I am the doer. So the whole understanding of doership, the whole illusion basically of doership, is what engenders free will. So that's.
Yeah,
and it's
nice.
all a dream, basically.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone like to respond to that? Harvey, what do you think about what John said?
Well, I'm in agreement with it. I feel that very often there is a sense of free will. It feels like it, and even on a sort of on a pragmatic basis, if one looks deeply, one sees a systemic interconnection, one could say. Now that's assuming that still assumes kind of individuals, but a lot of the choices that appear to be made through free will are inevitable anyway. From a kind of a non-dual perspective, there is no doer, so there may appear what seems to be choices or free will, but that's just showing up without a subject or a doer making it happen. So I'm really in alignment with you, John, on what you said.
Yeah, really interesting. Nickey is here. Nickey, Kelly, sorry, Kelly Sammy. I watched one of your videos earlier today about a near-death experience that you had. So I imagine you've got a lot to say about this.
You know, I think the thing that really cements this for me, because I always try to, you know, take this perception of it and apparently look at how I used to perceive this, right? Seems that there's this part of the story of Kelly where I didn't know this, and then there's this part of the story that knows this or experiences this. And I think that's what really tangibly hooks us in, is this this story of time and this illusion of a past and a future. And I can tie myself, my little Kelly, into you know, the doership. She did it. I have photographs, I have evidence, you know, I have all these things I can reach for. But if you just sit within that space of it, whether it's a photograph or a memory or something, even that can dissolve into this moment of nothingness. So even someone who doesn't necessarily have the experiential knowledge yet, you know, which I imagine there are people here, given the broader audience we're bringing forward, is you're going to have people who really tangibly can say, I experientially know this. And then you can have others who read it and they go, something within me really resonates with that, but I don't seem to be bought into it yet, if you will. So what I love to point to is science. Science always backs this, which is super cool. You know, sit with a moment in nature and science will show it to you. It'll show it to you that this moment that we go to grab for is already gone. And the one that we seem to be looking back on is also gone. So what's left? What's left? And then when you go to grab that, that too is already gone. So what is willing anything if there's not anything that's stagnant, right? There's this linear belief that that's what we're tying to, but even that's not true.
Yeah, nice. I was chatting to Anne earlier. We were chatting about how do you talk about that which doesn't exist in using words?
I think words are, I love how they say in A Course in Miracles, words are, and I always mess this up, so somebody jump in if I do, but you know, words are symbols upon symbols, once or twice removed. And so even that concept points to, you know, finger pointing to moon, finger pointing to moon, finger pointing to moon, finger pointing to moon, and yet no moon, right? And so these clanging things that seem to be arising serve no purpose at all. And they too dissolve into nothingness.
Yeah. I wonder what Anne's got to say. Have you had any thoughts about that, Anne?
No. I'm still thinking I'm a co-host. What do I do? Sorry, just ruined the whole thing. It's hilarious, you know. I mean, obviously, in duality, of course, there's free will. That you know, that's the only thing that you can know, because as someone else pointed out, I think John, you know, everything is real to the person. Therefore, the person is the center of everything, and they're doing everything, and they're operating, and the whole world centers around them and how they're going to manage it and how they're going to maneuver it for their advantage. But it can happen that drops away, and it's seen that it's not real. It's real and unreal, and I think it's the unrealness you can't intellectualize that there's no free will. The mind can't go there. It can try to understand it, but in terms of, you know, there actually being no free will, that is what the emptiness is. There is no free will in emptiness because there isn't anything, there's nothing at all. So that is a sort of, that is all that's there, and everything else is appearing. So free will's an appearance, but the actuality, the fact is, there's nothing going on. There's no one to have free will. There is an appearance of someone having free will, but it's just an appearance. It's just what's happening. But the bigger, well, it's not a bigger reality, but actually there is a sublime emptiness that can't be spoken of. It hasn't got words. So the concept of free will is just a concept. It's just an idea. It's just an imagining in that. And I don't know if that explains it, but that's what came up.
Yeah, nice, really nice. I just thought I'd sort of introduce you as co-host. On the panel, we've got Kelly and John and Nickey. John said a few words and Kelly earlier, but Nickey, we haven't heard anything from you yet. We still haven't got any video from you. I'm not sure whether we could see you or not.
I don't seem to be able to find my video. I have pressed every video possibility that I can think of, and have been quite distracted by that. So I do apologise. I'm kind of new at this Zoom. Can you hear me though?
Yeah, we can hear you well. Don't worry. Are you on a Mac or an iPad or what?
I am on I'm on a MacBook.
Okay, you should, if you hover over the screen, you should see down the bottom a panel should pop up, and I think you can start the video down there.
It does, and it says start video, and it's got a red line through it, and I tap it and tap it, and nothing happens. Oh
well, if you click it, it should start video. Okay. But we can go without. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to see me. I do apologise because I think you guys are all very savvy with all this now. No, thank you, Anne. I appreciate that that support.
Not at all.
So the subject is death?
Yes, death and free will.
Oh, that goes a bit together, doesn't it? Death is a great subject, I think, particularly with what's happening now, if we want to say in the world. And I think the biggest fear is that word. If we boil it all down to all the fear that's happening in the world, it's death. And the ease here is, what is death? And I always say, if you've got a birth certificate, you're going to get a death certificate. Like, it is just those two things that we have made in our life cycle of coming together as a beginning and an end. And here, where is the beginning and where is the end? It's such a brilliant, brilliant subject. But I have to say, the other day I was thinking, you know how people say, this is it. This is it. This is it, baby. And I can't even get there. I keep saying, it stops. It goes, this is.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, I wish you could see me. Yeah, so the word death probably has a very different sense of, because if you say the word death, it's quite a dramatic word. It's quite a, even if you say it to people, you can see it on their face. They're like, ooh, you know. So yeah, I don't know that I have the same expression of that word anymore at all. So I don't really know. I don't really know. Oh, that gets said a lot.
It does get said a lot because nobody knows. I mean, I literally have no idea what I'm talking about. It's often said that you hear speakers say, this is life and death. What does that mean to you, Kelly?
It's a great question, because when I did my interview with Emerson, he asked something similar. And I couldn't help but laugh, you know, which is a real normal reaction for those of us who seem to just find humor in everything now. And even for me, you know, the story of Kelly having committed suicide and killed herself, you know, that's a tough one for others maybe to follow, me finding laughter in that. And I think it offended some people, which is fine. You know, it's a good unearthing if it did. But, you know, Emerson said, maybe that's a great topic to talk about. You know, how can you find laughter in death? How can you not? Right? The hilarity of all of this becomes, everything's turned inside out. I describe it like, a balloon that's been flipped inside out, or somebody removed all of the air and the belly button just popped the other way, or, you know, whatever you want to say. Everything that used to be serious now is funny. Is that meaning that we find humor in others' pain or suffering, especially around death? Absolutely not. In fact, I find it to be quite the opposite in this nothingness, that the level of intimacy that I'm able to offer these apparent others is so much more meaningful and compassionate, because there's nothing needed here from them. There's nothing trying to gain anything, and there's nothing trying to seek something, and there's nothing trying to validate anything. There's just this experience of what is happening. So in that, it seems like there's this ability to just be, and yet no one's being anything. Yet the intimacy is more compassionate, it's more gentle. So is there hilarity in death? Yes. Yes, there's humor in all of it. There's humor in all of this if you take any of it seriously. And that just isn't possible here anymore. It just, even when it seems to stick for a second, it finds itself finding humor in it. And that's just, to me, that's beautiful. And if it offends, that too is beautiful. It is, and that can be met, and that can be held just as it is. There's nothing here that needs it to be other than that.
Nice, yeah. So if anybody's just joined, we've got Kelly and Nickey and John are on the panel. I'm hosting with Anne. You can open your mic, so if anybody wants to, so it's an open conversation. If anybody wants to ask any questions or has anything to say, the topic is death and free will, but, you know, I guess we don't have to stick to that. So,
well, I have a question.
Go ahead, Howard.
Hello, everybody. Death and free will. These are subjects that are all kind of tied in together. My question for anybody that would like to ask is, do you have a brain, a physical brain that exists in time and space?
Sorry, what was the question? Do you have a physical brain that exists within time and space?
Do you have a physical brain that exists in time and space?
Well, what appears to happen is thinking. Thinking happens. Nobody's doing it. It's apparently just happening.
So do you need a brain for that?
Excuse me?
So do you need a brain for that?
Apparently.
Apparently and actually are two different things. So my question is, does time and space exist? And is there a brain inside of it? Is there a physicality that derives thought? And if not, I just want to know what you thought about that. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
No problem at all. No problem at all. When it comes to things like the brain or the tree or the bird or the chair that you're sitting on or the computer or whatever, there appears to be these objects, right? But nothing is as it appears. So apparently there is a brain. And what the purpose of this is, or seeming purpose of this brain is vast. You know, like this movement is apparently a connection.
But does a brain actually exist in time and space?
No.
Thank you.
It's just what's happening. It's just what's appearing. Nothing is real. Nothing is real, and everything is just what's appearing. So there's nothing is solid. The me wants to know, right? Knowing is basically the blanket for the me. The me cannot handle, me cannot. Unknowing is what is. This is unknowing, absolutely. And even coming back to the issue of death, the me doesn't fear death. The me fears unknowing. That's what me fears, because me believes I'm real and I have a life, and I know that. I don't know death. Therefore, I'm scared because of it's unknowable. It's totally I cannot know that. So
can I add something? Sorry.
Yes,
so when you're saying there's an unknowing, then you actually can't answer that question about the brain, right? You can't say a definite yes or no.
No,
You
exactly.
No. Yeah. So
this is actually the absurdity. What's happening here is totally absurd. What we're doing is we just stories.
Hello.
Sorry.
My name is Girish. I am from India.
Oh, sorry, Girish, just one
sorry,
second.
Could you not interrupt?
John was just speaking.
When someone's speaking.
Oh, no, sir.
If we could just make it that if there's one person speaking, if you could just let them finish what they're saying, and then maybe raise your hand or wait until there's a space to speak. Otherwise, we're all going to be talking over each other, if that's all right. And if everybody could mute themselves while someone's speaking, that's okay. Yeah, so going back to, were you speaking, John?
Yeah, so basically, I was just saying, as someone mentioned, so this nothing can be known really. So I said, yes, what's absolutely just happening is this is just everybody is apparently it's just stories. This is just a story about nothing. It's no more important than any other story. It's all the stories, even the story or so-called duality or non-duality. Non-duality, duality is not, it's not things. It's just stories that has been told or that's appearing about things or about certain things and this is total unknowing. Like the person that asked about the brain and the time and space, nothing exists. Nothing is real. There's no solidity, and in the story of me, in the dream, everything is solid, everything is set, everything is a certain way. Time and space, it's the time, apparent time and space in the dream it's defined. I'm here and I'm going to go there, and this is the time I'm going to go there. That is still apparently what's happening. But in the dream, and what is the dream? What is the dream? The dream is that I am real and everything around me is real. And as somebody else earlier said, I think it was Kelly, there's a seriousness about everything. Therefore, there's a seriousness about death, because I don't want to lose my life. You know, it's a threat. I've got a life, and that threat is what drives it's what drives the me, because it feels unsafe. It's a natural byproduct of separation, of feeling separate. It's just what happens. The me cannot help itself, but being afraid of what it doesn't know, of being afraid of unknowing. And death is just one of the things that is not knowable to the me. Therefore, the me doesn't want it. Therefore, the me is threatened. And therefore, the me thinks if it's life, the life is real, it is real, and the life it has, it takes ownership. You know, so it takes
Does
ownership
knowledge
of
exist? Does knowledge exist?
knowledge. No. No, apparent knowing. When you speak about knowledge, in the dream of me, there is a knower. So there's somebody that can know something. But knowledge is part of the dream. Knowing is part of the dream. This is unknowing. This is just what's appearing. Like the speaking, it's just what's appearing. It comes from nowhere. Nobody knows this. This is not knowing. This is not somebody speaking or anybody speaking from a place of knowledge or of knowing. You see, knowing, it supposes, or it presupposes, or whatever, another, something to be known. This is unknowable.
Can I give you an analogy? Words
sure.
or language presupposes two or more points in time and space, communicating information. And therefore, words are the illusion of time and space and points thereof. That is why language cannot express what is being alluded to. That is just a thought coming from nowhere to nothing. Thank you.
That's a very nice thought, though. That's a very nice thought.
Surah has a hand up, but Girish, I'm gonna maybe go with Girish. Girish first wanted to ask a question earlier, and then Surah will come up onto you next.
Hello. Actually, I'm a spiritual person, so I am adding here that is a real question is that we are accepting death or not. That question is actually us we have to self first.
Girish, we have three people. It's sort of an open conversation today, and we have three people on the panel. We have Kelly, Nickey, and John.
Okay.
Would you like to direct your question at one of them, or maybe any of them could answer if they felt particularly inclined? Could you repeat your question?
Okay. Is anyone have experience such that doesn't exist?
Has anyone had an experience that they don't exist? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Has anyone had an experience
or nothingness?
Pardon?
Nothingness. Is anyone have experienced nothingness?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Kelly. I can speak to that. I had a near-death experience. I think I can share with you at least a little bit of what.
Thank you.
What I think you're asking about. So I think the question that you're asking is, has anyone had the experience of no existence through death? Is that right? Got it. So I think to speak to this is to first point to the fact that for 38 years, I apparently believed in this story of Kelly very deeply, of course, to the point of believing that it needed to kill itself, okay? And what seems to have occurred which is also part of the nothingness, was an absence of anything. An absence of an identifier, a body, a thing. You know, we attempt again, you'll hear all of us here say the same thing. Words will not speak to this. So I often will say, you know, we're always between these two, you know, parentheses, trying to point to something that isn't there. That being said, to tangibly kind of explain what appeared to have happened here was just a complete disappearance of any identity of any kind whatsoever. No body, no sensation, no thought, no need for any of that, no desire to try and recreate that. We could call it nothingness, but there was no one experiencing it. It became everything and nothing at all. It was as if duality and non-duality merged and there was nothing left. You know, I describe it as an abyss, a darkness, but it wasn't anything scary whatsoever. There was nothing fearful happening, and there was nothing here that needed to get back or wanted to return or resort to that story that seemed to apparently have been going on for 38 years of pure victimhood, by the way, which led to suicide. And then apparently, bam, there's a body again, and there's a story, and there's this whole thing happening. And so there's this real convoluted experience of experiencing and no one doing it. So it seemed, you know, one moment there was just this identity, and then there wasn't an identity, and then there was this body that thought it had an identity, but no one believed it anymore. So, you know, talk about walking around with a bit of schizophrenic kind of, holy heck, what the heck's going on here? It became hysterical, all of it, right? Now here this thing has just killed itself. So of course everyone's watching it, you know, keep an eye on that one. Sorry, again, I can't help but not laugh, and I'm not laughing at suicide or death or diminishing any of it, but it really is hysterical to watch the thing thinking the things and not attached to any of it anymore. There's just this, whoa, look at that. Oh, that's so cool. What's doing that? Oh, interesting. As soon as I gaze at what's doing that, it's gone. Poof, poof, poof. So I don't know if that answered your question. Please refine a little deeper if I didn't hit what you were going for.
Right. In spirituality, we actually experience that, and somewhat I feel that we can say that is the near-death experience, we can say, or we can in living body we are experiencing such things, nothingness. So that is the near. We don't know.
I don't like the term near-death experience at all. In fact, I find such humor even in that now, right? Death is our
Truth. Okay, thank you.
Surah, do you still want to ask that question that you had?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, it was more relevant when John was talking, but I'm wondering if there's a possibility that all that you guys are speaking about, you know, this type of experience, could that be part of the dream as well? Just like an upgraded version or something, you know, because still as soon as we put it in words, it's the brain interpreting and firing up whatever it, you know, it the way it could understand it. So who's to say that this is not that version of reality where it's you know, the real, the unreal, the disidentification that happens, that's just kind of another level of the dream, like a kind of, if you know what I mean. It's there's just really no way to know that there's anything happening outside of kind of what the brain puts out. It's sort of like maybe this is a undiscovered aspect of, because neuroscience has not even scratched the surface. So what if this is just another layer of experience that we're just discovering? And we're infants. We're literally just scratching the surface of this. I don't know. This is kind of just wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. In fact, it's a very similar to a question that came through on YouTube from Therese, who said, can't really know anything until you experience it. And even then, we only have a limited ability in sensing what is actually going on. Who fancies having a go at Sarah's question?
I can give it a shot. I don't know. We don't know. This, you know, what Shiraz just asked is, we don't know. This is what we are speaking about is unknowable. So you actually reminded me of the movie Inception, a dream within a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that movie. But this what's being pointed to here, and what's the message that's been shared here is totally unknowable. So there's no one really here that knows anything. So even your question that you ask is unanswerable. But they, you know, so that brings another question to mind. So what is the point of all of this? There is no point of all of this. There's no point of this meeting. There's no point of all of this. There's no meaning in everything, no purpose in anything whatsoever that's happening here. This is just what's happening. So what's been speaking, what's spoken here is not true or untrue. There's really no such thing as truth. Truth implies knowing. You know, I'm real, so I know this is true, and I can argue, or I can state my point, or the next person can also then state their point, and we can have a back and forth about what is true or what is not. This is a speaking around something that's really unspeakable, and your question cannot be answered. It cannot be answered because there's nobody to answer the question really. And any question that comes, there's nobody that answers any question. It's just speaking. The person that's speaking and is appearing of someone answering a question, but that's also just what's happening. And nobody's experiencing anything. Like I, just to give a bit of a background here, you know, what seems to happen was one moment there was this intense seeker, this intense striving towards something, towards knowing, to this incessant knowing for truth, or wanting more. You know, it's a constant wanting more. And what apparently happened, what seems to happen, is that just stopped. That just stopped for no reason. Nobody tried. Nobody can. It was just seen that all of it never existed. All of it never happened. It's that, even that is a non-event. It happened to no one. And as you can hear, I'm speaking. It's very different. The words it's ineffable. It's ineffable. So it's beyond words. It's a constant pointing and a dancing around something which nobody can know, which nobody can. So for what happened here, this apparent person in the story, it just ceased. And then what was seen as obvious is that nothing is real. Nothing matters. You know, even what we are talking about, nothing is profound here. We're simply speaking about what is obvious and ordinary, everyday happenings. And that's the beauty. That is the beauty. The ordinary, everyday happenings. Just what is. Just washing the dishes. You know, it is just what is. There's no super, like me always wants like the super experience, or well, I fell into the void and wow, look at me, I was in the void. So what? You know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I completely understand. And I'm just wondering if in a way this is kind of the brain's way of adjusting, because evolutionary wise, it hasn't worked out for us to kind of have this interpretation, function. And so maybe this is just the next evolutionary stage for of kind of dropping into being, and the ordinary, whatever you were describing, because I'm not there, but just basically, and that's why I'm saying, could this just be the brain kind of, maybe something that we haven't yet discovered. And I always wonder if you guys were, how they had meditators, they had like brain scans, and they saw like certain activations in certain, what do you call it? Like the certain parts of the brain and stuff. And so if there's neurons firing in a different section or something, we're inhabiting a different part of ourselves, which we haven't inhabited before. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. Again, it's a story, but it's just kind of something that, who knows?
I'm just going to give a final punt at it. I'm just going to give one final punt, and I'm talking too much. What you're speaking about evolution, right? Evolution assumes time, and it assumes space, which is illusory, right? So basically, what's been pointing at here in this gathering, meeting, or whatever, is that nothing is real. So evolution is not real. So something is not changing from one thing to another, because there's no things, nowhere to go, nothing to do. It's just simply what is. This, as it is right now, is whole and complete already. It's not evolving to something else, because as I said, that in presupposes engenders time and space. That time and space is real, and time and space is not really. It's part of the dream of separation, and the me character believes and wants to know that it exists, and this is where I'm existing right now. I'm here, you are there, so it feels a sense of safety, and it feels a sense of security that I can own something. It makes it feel safe. But that's the illusion. That's what's been pointing at here. That never happened. And even when I say that nothing is happening here, or here's no one. So I'm saying Surah, you're not there. You've never been. There's never been a you. Everybody else, there's never been anyone. It's just what's apparently happening, and the brain, and what's apparently happening is just what's happening in the brain and the functions that is so called in the brain. And so this is basically what's been pointing at the year. Total unknowing, and so.
Can I offer something to the fellow that asked about the end of existence or
can we just, sorry, there's a few people with their hands up that have been waiting. Would you mind just hanging on for a moment, because they have been waiting?
Absolutely.
Quite a while.
It's my first time. My fault.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're just experimenting with this, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you, John. That was a lovely description, very clear. There's no next, there's no movement, there's no time, there's no evolution. It's simply this, there's nothing after this. And that you described that beautifully. So Anita's got a hand up, and do you still want to ask a question, Anita?
First, I want to thank you all for this meeting. I always love the energy that is felt. John was very clear. Thank you about that. And Kelly, yes, he told it also already. So near-death experience, I think it's also a story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I like it the way you are talking. Yeah.
Thank you, Anita. I appreciate that.
And here is I worked today and did some shoppings, and at 7 o'clock I'm going to have a dinner. But it touches me to be in these meetings.
Oh, sweet. Sending you lots of love.
Thank you.
I feel you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. And Krish has been waiting. Do you still want to ask a question, Krish?
Yes, please. That's fine. Thank you. Hi, guys.
Lovely.
Yeah, just wanted to know, since you've, I guess, liberated yourself from your individual or separate self, has your relationship with nature changed at all in any way?
Does anybody, Nick, would you like to say anything on this? If Nickey's still there, I know she's been having trouble with her connection, so you're muted at the moment, Nickey.
Thanks, Anne. I think as far as their relationship with anything is concerned, it can't be pocketed in, oh, that one's for nature and this one's for inside and this one's for the kitchen. What happens is it's all, the blinders are off and it's all full on, absolutely full on, you know. But at the same time, I do love to walk in nature. It's the freshness of the trees rustling and the birds singing and the squirrels running. So yes, there's a real aliveness, and I think it's really beautiful right now. I think more people are going to nature. They have this desire to be in nature even more now. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's
the reason I ask is because
as far as then those spaces. I hope that
the reason I ask is because I'm actually there's a tug of war, a civil war happening inside of me at the moment, and I'm doing various practices, and I'm practicing self-inquiry. Ramana Maharshi, I don't know whether you know the Who Am I method, but I'm practicing that, and I'm starting to have a reduction in thoughts. And from what I see, there has been a fundamental shift in my relationship with nature. Everything seems to be a far more vivid. From everything, it's taken on a completely different appearance, and it's just the immensity of everything around me. So I just wanted to know whether it was a similar experience with, and there's obviously silence. Even now when I'm speaking with a slightly agitated tone, but there's a huge silence in the background in everything that happens. And I just want to know, I'm just trying to speak to other people who've lost their sense of self, and do you find that there is a silence that pervades everything?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there's nothing to pin this. It's just as it is, just always as it is. And sometimes we do have an expression where we say, oh, the thoughts are less. Well, here the thoughts are still full on, it is going on, but there's less grasping of the thoughts, because otherwise sometimes people think they lost themselves and then they found themselves and it's there and it's not there. The thoughts just go on, and sometimes there's lots going on. The furnace went yesterday, and then there's lots and lots of thoughts, right? And it's not like, oh, there's not less thoughts, or I'm going to have such calm thoughts about the bloody furnace is broken. But the thoughts are still going to be there. It's just that you don't grasp them quite like the same, and then they appear, and then you address them, and issues come up with that addressing of them, and then you figure out another way to address them. So I think the natural self as you are, with the thoughts coming and the thoughts not coming, the silence that pervades the whole thing, and the silence and stillness where a lot of people go with that, which I think is really beautiful. I have that sitting still makes the seeing of everything even more, because sometimes when we're in movement, it's fast, it feels faster. But yeah, I'll let someone else speak about that. I hope that that was heard anyway.
Thank you, Nickey. That was lovely. Yes, it's a it's a beautiful silence, isn't it? And it's a silence in all the noise, and it's a silence in everything, no matter how noisy or how many thoughts or how much craziness is going on in the mind activity. There's always a silence. But one thing that you mentioned at the beginning of that question was, have you guys set yourself free, did you say, from this? How did you say that?
Well, liberated yourself from your body-mind complex.
Okay, yeah, that was it, liberated yourself. But it's really not about liberating yourself. That's what struck me. You know, there is no one that can liberate themselves. And I think that's the hardest thing to grasp, that there isn't anything anyone can do to liberate themselves, because the separate self that would want to do that, that thinks they're in charge, they're in control, that they're the doer, doesn't exist. That is the dream, that is the illusion, that there is a person, that there is a separate self that can free themselves. And if they meditate enough and listen to the right speakers and have a guru, then these things will happen. And lovely experiences of enlightenment can happen, and, you know, vivid colours in nature and bliss. But they are experiences. They are appearances.
I know that. So I understand this, like it's a mental apparition. I understand that, but there has been a cognitive shift. So from whenever that happened, you know, whatever. Before you identified with this entity, now that there has been a shift, so we'll call it liberation or whatever you want to call it, but there has been a shift, hasn't there, from what you 5-10 years ago, whenever this has happened, there has been some type of shift of identity.
I can speak to that a little bit, I think.
Thanks, Kelly.
I think I want to kind of talk to it from two angles here. You know, one of the things with non-duality and in this whole, you know, ability to speak to this is, again, a challenge we all face here, right? But in some context, we have to use language to point to things. So let's put the non-duality police away for a minute while I just try to come at it from head on first. So what I hear you saying is this version of the self that you describe as you is now taking on practices which you describe as allowing you to notice experiences more tangibly. And yet there's also an awareness that that's all part of the story. So the two things seem to be simultaneously going on, which in itself points to the fact that there's no doer, right? Because two things clanging together cancel each other out. The more that happens, it seems the thing that thinks it's doing something to get that, to obtain that, lets go. And now it's just the arising of the moment. And now it's not the meditation brought that, which I don't hear you saying that, but I hear you saying there seems to be a heightening of that. But what I think is really, again, hard to speak to in this non-duality is, you know, we have to use references of time. You know, when I didn't meditate, I didn't have that experience. Or when I do that more, I do have that experience. And so the thing keeps thinking, and that becomes the carrot. So it's really important, and it sounds like you're doing this, to just be aware of that awareness. I tell people, don't focus on what seems to be getting you. That finger pointing to that moon seems to be the thing that's bringing more of that. And I don't hear you saying that, but I just want to make it clear. What seems to be arising seems to be more colorful, more vivid. There's a more deeper, solid connection with nature that I apparently didn't have before reading Ramana or sitting in nature. Now, stay with that and ask what's aware of that. And that's the spot. That's the sweet spot. That's the nectar. not in what seems to have gotten there, but what seems to be aware of the story playing out to create more of this beauty, more of this aliveness, more of this boundless connectedness. When there's nothing biting at it, when there's nothing biting at, I'll keep doing that practice, or I'm going to get up tomorrow at 4 a.m. and I'm going to do it for 2 more hours. And now all of a sudden there's this new attachment that's come that practice led to this experience. And that's not even the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I've got, oops, here I am. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the experience, they're not isolated experience. It's actually, I can feel the silence right now when listening to you. But this separate self of me is still very much alive in me. It's just, it feels like, you know, there's a little transitional thing going on. I don't know. I'm just trying to verify my experience with you guys, because when I see nature now, it's just absolutely striking. Every time I go out, I can just look at a tree and it's just, it's all, you know, it's just jaw dropping. But
right,
that's it's fundamentally shifted. And I just wanted to know whether that is the same with you guys. You know, just to see whether I'm on the right track. You know, whether I'm, you know, I'm just trying to verify my experience. But yeah, it's a difficult one to explain. it's
no, you're doing a great job. And I just, you know, again, we've got different levels of people that are joining this that, you know, may hear that. And I just always like to kind of loop around to, again, it's really easy to try and grab onto a practice that seems to equate to a thing. But the coolest thing is, and I think it was Nickey who talked about it earlier, may have been John, sorry, but the thoughts are still very, you know, busy. And Nickey was talking about this with our heater going out yesterday. And, you know, it's really easy to grab onto those things and intellectualize those. But the noticing of those things and not grabbing onto it is where that bridge seems to happen to the connectedness that you're describing. At least that's what I notice. Those things passing by, nothing interested in them anymore, and totally aware of them. And now there's this apparent freedom to experience and really the sensation and aliveness of nature and color and taste and context.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just add something? It's a really, really exciting thing. I just want to say, nothing happens. Nothing happened. Nothing's gonna happen. You don't have to wait for anything. You seeing the tree, you've seen it all. Don't you know, sometimes we think it's gonna happen, and then you guys have shifted. There's no shift. There's no anything else happened. It's exactly as it is. You are it. There's nothing more you have to do. There's nothing you have to figure out. There's nothing you have to change. It's not when you see the tree. It's. So there's no happening. There's no pin in the happening. And when I figure it out a bit more, and that's just the mind saying that. When I figure it out more, I'm going to get it more, and then it happens in nature, and then not quite here. But that's not true. It is always is. So congratulations. It's not a happening. It's a happening. Oh, now that's just getting. Anyway, I just wanted to say that out loud.
That's
Nickey,
lovely, Nickey. Thank you.
Rob just
That's,
commented, well said, Nickey.
Yeah, no, there's nothing to find. That's lovely.
And can I just
Art's got his hand up.
Actually, Michael had his hand up quite a while ago. He didn't know how to press the hand up button, but is Michael still here or has he left?
I think he left.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Anne.
Hey.
I didn't see Michael's hand up, Daron.
Oh,
he didn't know how to do it, so he was waving.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay. Okay, Art, do you have a question?
Oh, well, yeah, I wanted to respond to what Karish said, but Nickey basically just said what I wanted to say, actually.
Lovely.
And, you know, but I guess another part of it I just wanted to emphasize is that it's just unique to you, and everyone's going to express it their own unique way. For some, they will experience and express it as a unique black and white day and night shift where they were forever changed. For another person, no shift. For another person, it's a gradual thing, or for another person, thousands of shifts every single week. So, you know, ultimately, I mean, I you know, done a lot of, I've read a lot of Ramana and practiced self-inquiry quite a bit, Karish, and I think the real beauty of his teaching is kind of like the Buddhist teaching, where it's all about finding out for yourself. Ramana didn't tell you what to think. He wasn't giving any answers. His most common response to any question was to find out who's the one asking the question. And that's a personal investigation that's not necessarily intended to end with an answer or for you to land anywhere. And so that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks for that.
We have got Surah with his hand up. I think you've asked one question earlier, haven't you?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I just wanted to add, well, I think Art has a really good point about it being unique to everybody. It could show up in different ways, but also as far as like the sense perceptions, what the other, I forget his name, but the one who was saying the trees are brighter. Like, I think that's there's some sensitivity that kind of gets, you know, I think some people are born with a natural sensitivity, and that could be there before. Like for me, it wouldn't be anything new. Like I have that all the time, and it's not always pleasant to have, like, you know, everything so bright and so loud and so vivid. So yeah,
funny thing is, I've asked people like Rupert Spira as well, different non-dual, and everyone gives me a different answer. So it's very interesting to hear that you can ask people who've had various experiences and you know have non-dual awareness, if you want to call it that. But yeah, everyone gives you a very different answer. So it's very interesting.
Krish, maybe I could just jump in for a minute as well, because your story seems similar to mine, but they're both just stories. And I don't want to give you any hope, so it's not about something happening. But no. Here it seemed to be that the emptiness or the stillness, or this sort of unchanging nothing that doesn't seem to really exist even. That was really recognized first, but there was still seeking that seemed to go on. There seemed to still be a looking for something that it felt like, well, that can't be what I'm looking for. That seemed to go on for a while, until it didn't.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know if there's anybody else wants to say anything who doesn't know how to put their hand up. If you do, then just make yourself know. And otherwise we'll... Sorry, Daron.
There are also a couple of questions in chat as well. Shall I?
Yes, I've seen the questions.
Yeah, there was one for Kelly actually, and it was from Teresa on YouTube. Actually, there was a couple from Teresa. She said, Kelly, did you immediately love yourself again once you came back into your body, or did that take some time to build?
Great question. The victim story didn't come back with this apparent new version of Kelly in a body again. There was just euphoria. There was just love for everything and everyone in a way I couldn't have ever fathomed. And again, I think the way I describe it, and Art you did an amazing job. Thank you for piping in there. I really wanted to thank you for coming in with the way you articulated that, because I think it's a really important point, which is nothing any of us say to you is going to necessarily be your direct experience. And I think that's the most important thing. It's the, you know, who is wanting that? Who is seeking that information? That's the thing. But this story of Kelly came back euphoric, but there was still stickiness, apparently. You know, there was still stuff that had Velcro on it that seemed to want to attach it to the old version. But now there seemed to be this dualistic component of that thing, this thing, and something watching that thing. And these components all seem to be, you know, playing in sync, and sometimes debating each other and sometimes rallying together. And there just seemed to be this thing noticing all of that without any interest at all in how it played out, just a curiosity and a hilarity to it all. Yet, yes, this one that seems to be doing the human thing seems to have loved herself more, greater, seems to have arisen to liking herself much more than she did apparently before this. And again, I think what that is just, I think Emerson said it when we were getting started, it's like the filters just left. So what's left here, if there's no story about it, is just that arising. We call it love, but maybe it's just a happening without any expectation on it or anything judging it. Is it love, or is it just, ooh, look at that? I don't know if that answers it, but you know, the happening is apparently love, but even I can't find that here.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Any more questions, Daron?
There was it's another one for Kelly, so I was just going to kind of carry on with that one. Silent Dreamer from YouTube says, with the thousands of NDEs reporting consciousness leaving the body and continuing to experience other realms and entities, how does that fit into the non-duality conversation?
Oh, this is a good one. I just actually did a big writing about this, about how this apparent story of Kelly doesn't really fit into any of the groups or the cliques, and I'm okay with that. You know, the story of the one that seems to have seen through the self. I'm welcomed here, but not by all, because there's still a part of this that says that had a near-death experience, and there's still part of this that says that now has apparently these psychic gifts, and there's apparently a that. But yet, even though all those seem to be playing out, the one that sees them all playing out buys into none of them. So what can we say except that that too is part of the story? And if the story is going to play itself out and it's the happening, then what's wrong in the happening? The happening is part of it or not. So there's nothing taking credit for it. There's nothing that thinks it's doing it. The doership is the part that's died. There's just an awareness of that. And now what I describe it as is more of just a curiosity. Ooh, let's see how that one's going to play out. Let's see what that thing is going to do with that. Let's see how that is going to toy with that. And there just seems to be less of the playing with the energy of it, if you will. Something seems to have fallen between the cracks of the doer and the non-doer that just seems to be witnessing all of this with zero expectation of how it unfolds, and also zero expectation of what it does, what it labels itself, what it seems to be arising in this lifetime to do. It's life work, chop wood, carry water. There's nothing saying you've had this experience, therefore you speak of non-duality. How can you also speak of having gifts? Well, gifts seem to be happening. They're not happening to anyone. They're not belonging to anyone. It just seems to be what's arising and non-arising and arising and non-arising.
That's beautiful, Kelly. Thank you. That's so clear. That what I heard in that was there's no wrong, there's no right or wrong, and everything is allowed. And the mind is so used to this is wrong, this is right, and sort of commentating and analysing and commenting and seeking, and that continuous loop that goes round and round. And when the seeking, and it is the seeking that's the suffering, when that drops, then everything's just allowed, and it's all wide open, and there's no criticism in a sense, although there can be apparent criticism, but yeah, there's no shoulds or shouldn'ts or right or wrong, and Kelly made that really clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you for the question to the YouTuber.
Are there any more questions anyone would like to ask, or just comment or share?
Yeah, I'd like to sort of comment, and Kelly sort of brought up something that I sort of, there's a knowingness of it. There's a kind of a seeing of everything metaphorically, the way I do it, like I'm like reading a novel. And when I'm reading a novel, I can commentate, this should happen, that should happen, and it just happens. And there may be, as I'm reading fiction, there may be feelings arising, responding to it. But there's always a knowing it's not happening to me. There's no, it's not, I don't claim it as mine. So I can surf it, I can ride the emotions and feelings and the commentaries that are arising, you know, but as I turn the page, I'll find out what happens next. I don't know, I really don't know. But whatever happens, whether the mind agreed or didn't agree or whatever, it didn't happen to me. So even the Velcro effect, it's a word I use when I'm teaching, even the Velcro, it's like there may be Velcro that may be temporarily there as I'm reading, as there's a reading of it. And yet at the end of it, to go, oh, that was an interesting adventure. But it didn't happen. It wasn't mine. And I didn't claim it as mine. And so now the book goes down and I'll see what adventure comes up next.
Thank you, Harvey.
You're
That's
welcome.
lovely. Beautifully said.
I wanted to thank you guys, if I could just stick my 2 cents in. But yeah, this is absolutely, it's stunning. It's, you know, I want to give my all. I just want to bow to this and just surrender everything to it. I don't know. It's beautiful. And I just know it. It's like, regardless of what it is, I just know that it's stunning, you know? So thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I say to the guy that, I'm sorry, can I just say to the guy that asked about the end of existence or death, excuse me, look at it like this, existence does and does not exist. It's not a secular natural thing. It's not one thing or another. It's both and something else entirely. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Yeah, it's a paradox, you know, everything is a paradox. There's it's happening and it's not happening. And I think that takes the seriousness out of things, you know, almost nothing matters, because as a person, everything's real. There's only one thing going on, and that's real, you know. But it's a paradox that it's real and unreal at the same time. 100% real and 100% not real simultaneously, and that is a great freedom in that, because there's no one doing that and there's no one in that. Does anybody else want to ask a question or comments?
There's an interesting question in chat as well from Surah that you typed earlier, Surah.
I did?
She asks, yeah, you were asking, is there a component of being that is the silence? Is that the emptiness that is described?
I would say no.
Wait, who's answering now? Who's that?
That was Howard, but who
Okay.
wants to have a go at that? John, Nickey, Kelly, maybe John
You got anything to say on that?
or Nickey? Yeah.
What was, is anybody talking to me? I don't know how this works, so I'm sorry.
Could you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, no problem. So Surah asked the question, is there a component of being that is the silence? So is there a component of being that is the silence? Is that the emptiness that is described? So I think Surah's asking, is there something that is real, that is the silence that's described? Would that be a good interpretation of your question, Surah?
Well, silence comes up a lot. I hear that, and I hear it as a tangible thing. And I also notice when I go into nature, there is, it's wow, it's so hard to put your finger on it, but it almost has it's like there's a certain temperature to it or flavor or, yeah, no, that's not it either. I don't know. I just don't know. I think well, but anyway, but that word does come up a lot and people talk about it and it seems like it's kind of a component of that beingness. It's sort of like one aspect of it, if you, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Nickey, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, and there's nothing that can describe anything, so I'm just gonna give it a go. So the silence is so big that it's not a silence that's inside you. So like there's edges to this, but the silence has no edges. It's just the silence of silence of silence. It doesn't matter if you're, at the disco, or what age is me? No, it doesn't matter where you are or how much sound is happening, whether it's the most beautiful birds tweeting. The silence is this big, big silence that's hearing it, that isn't in your silence in your head like we think sometimes, when everything goes quiet and, the television's on silent. I know you know.
Do I?
You know that you don't know that you know. No,
I'm not sure. I don't know. And this is, sorry?
It's giant, like it's, And
why would you use the word silence? Is it actually, does it have that element?
It's hard to come up with any words. So we try to use the words that kind of...
Is it very still and kind of has like is it completely still and unmoving? Is there something about it? Is that what?
Yes, it's an energy that's so enormously present and so silent and so still and so unconditional and so... That's where I get to, I just get to that. But there's nothing here that ever believes that nobody doesn't know this. I feel like there's a lot of people that think they have a little secret self that they don't tell anyone about. And they have thoughts about it and thoughts about themselves and this little secret self that they always know is there. That secret self knows the not knowing, and silence, don't ever get caught up on any words ever.
Yeah.
Because, describe.
And that's closer than close. It's not, there's no gap whatsoever. It's just, it's so close that we don't notice it unless all those filters kind of fall away, it seems. Like it's just there. I don't know. I don't trust that I know it. I just kind of, but when you speak about it, there's a kind of longing, a kind of, gravitational something that wants to move toward that and become that. I don't know, So,
I totally hear you. And it's beautiful. I remember this one thing. It was like they found this mine in I think it was in Wales or something. And then the mine, and it was really, really super deep. And then it fell through on itself. And then they got this little machine, like a little capsule that they could go in, and then they went down into the well, then into the mine, and then they went further down into the earth than they'd ever been before. And it was really a big deal. And they were doing experiments down there, and they were trying to measure no sound. Because it was so, and that apparently they could only stay down there for so long. Like humans couldn't deal with the fact that there was actually, you know, and they were trying to number it 0.000. Like science is funny like that because they have to, you know, can't figure it out. What do you mean?
That's really interesting because you could hear it, so I know that we're not hearing silence because I know we can. So the brain kind of the way it works is sort of it puts a little what's it called? It kind of
labels everything too.
No, it has a buzz. Like when you listen to silence, it's not really silence. It's just like a kind of, oh God, how do you even talk about this? But really it's just, yeah. And when I tune into that, it's very real, but I don't know if this is what you're talking about. Who knows? Yeah.
You know, it's all the same thing. It really is all the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Oh, that was beautiful, Nickey. I love the way you pointed out, you know, I know that you know this because, yeah, it's just so not special, you know. Nobody's got something that no one else has got. You know, there's no special guru or enlightened one. There's just nothing special at all. It's something that, you know, it's kind of like a forgotten memory almost. You know, when we were born, you know, we weren't born, but when we were born, we learned how to be a person, but that's the whole not real structure of it. But actually, you know, this is what you are already. There is nowhere to go and nothing to achieve because, you know, you already are this, you know. There is only this, there is only this. And everyone is that. But I think Grish has had his hand up quite a while now. If you'd like to ask me a question.
No, it's my experience. I want to share. Can I?
Of course.
Okay. When you say silence, then there is present of word silence and I. So I want to share with you, all of you, one little activity that lots of my friends spiritual done that. Just say I am silent, then remove the silent word, then I am, remove I am, then I, remove I. Just do it. Now I am silent. Thank you. Nice discussion. Very nice discussion.
Thank you, Krish. Are there some questions in chat, Daron?
Yes, there are. So Teresa says to Kelly, she says, wow, thank you for your answer, Kelly. It was earlier. I don't know whether you can remember the question, but she said, it sounded like you came back with a childlike curiosity and excitement. Amazing. There's a question for Anne. Question for you, Anne. She said, Teresa says, so is the very desire to work on oneself, to be a better person, actually a waste of time? It has always felt like a battle between my higher and lower instincts. Delusion, maybe, she says.
Well, the working on oneself either will or won't happen, but there's no one doing that. There's no, you know, there's no real choice in that. It's an appearance. You know, in this story, Anne worked on herself, went to CBT, and did various things, you know, and they were seeking. But there isn't anyone who can work on themselves, because that is an appearance. So that there is nothing that I could do to make this happen, to make the seeking stop, because it's seeking. I mean, people work on themselves all the time. You know, you can go to the gym and work on yourself, you'll get a better body. You know, you can work on your memory, get a better mind. But in terms of the seeking stopping and the separate self illusion falling apart, there's nothing really you can do. Well, there's nothing you can do about that, because the seeking will stop when it stops. You know, there was nothing here that made, and no one, no speaker, no nothing that made the seeking stop. It just stopped. And that will happen or not happen naturally. And I don't know if that answers your question.
I think that was a great answer, Anne. Maybe we'll get a reply from Teresa on that one later. Teresa also has a question for Nickey. She says, does anything happen because everything has always happened infinitely in every possible direction, and we must just choose our course? Does nothing happen because everything has already happened infinitely and in every possible direction, and we must just choose our course? That's for Nickey.
Did I unmute myself?
You did, yeah. You're muted again.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it's really tricky for me for questions, because I don't have any answers. So I just try to hear a little bit of the questions to see if anything comes up to say. And I think it was just the last few words that wanted to talk about those. What were those last few words, Daron? Do I have a direct...
And we must just choose our course.
Yes, and that's, you know, the choose your course bit. It's like the free will bit. So there is no, you don't even bother with that. You don't even need to choose anything. You know, you can just cancel that whole, I have free will, so I can choose the course of it. So yeah, you already passed. You passed, you're done, you got it, it's fine. There's no path to choose. It's going to go in any direction it wants to go in. It's always going to be fresh. The body's going to move into the next thing it's doing. And that sense, I have to say, with the not choosing, not doing, that's a bit that can be really, really scary. It's like, no, I won't do anything if I'm not doing choosing, not if I'm not doing free will. But you'd be amazed, it does it anyway. It just does it. It just goes ahead and takes the next step of moving. It doesn't require you to remember to take your next breath. It doesn't require you to know something more. It's all just a happening. It's so natural and so beautiful, and there's no chooser. So didn't worry about it. I think.
Yeah, lovely answer, Nickey. That's really, really nice. I wondered as well, we haven't heard from John for a little while, but maybe John, it might just be interesting how you would express this this emptiness, this stillness that doesn't exist.
Oh man, it's unexpressible. Our attempt, there's an attempt that's being made here by no one. As the speaking went on, especially the last question, or what I can add, what can be added to this is that This is pure boundlessness. There's no boundary to this. So what happens? And because this is absolutely boundless and absolutely free and absolutely just this, anything can happen. Anything can appear because of its boundlessness. There's no limit to this. There's no condition to this. It's totally unconditional. So no condition, there's no conditions that this boundlessness imposes. It excludes nothing and it's exclusive to no one. So this, what is simply this. And the story, in the story of me, in the dream or whatever, it's just that energy, that seeking energy, which apparently also just arises. You know, nobody's doing that. That is also just emptiness. There's nothing there. That is just emptiness. The me in itself is empty. It appears that there is an energy, or whatever you want to call it, that comes into existence, or it comes into being, which forms a center, and this center almost feels solid. It's like a solid. I'm real. It's me, you know, and therefore it always adds onto. It always wants to add onto this and to what already is. Like we were speaking about silence earlier. There was a speaking about silence, and silence. There cannot be any component to silence. If one says that, if it's said there's a component to silence, then what it means is that there is someone that can point to a specific component. Silence is all encompassing. It envelops everything. Just as everything, just as this boundlessness, this aliveness, it encompasses everything. Nothing needs to be added to this, and this has absolutely no conditions on how things are supposed to be, because nothing is lacking here, nothing is missing here. It's just in this energy of me, the center, you know, that, you know, it becomes this personal. Everything becomes so personal. You know, my experience. Can I change my experience? Do I need to change my experience? That's the whole me story. That's the whole story. That's the whole dream. That something has to be different. You know, we spoke about one of the subjects or the topics is free will. And that's where that comes in. You know, we something has to be different than what it apparently already is, and nothing has to be different than what it already is. I think Nickey also alluded to, you know, there's nothing that needs to be added. Nothing needs to change. There's no self-development, you know, that's necessary. What is already whole and complete, but the feeling or that center that feels like, oh, that's the illusion. That absolutely has never existed. Even that feeling or that sense of contractedness or whatever, you know, just this, like, it's almost like a constipation. You know, it's you know, that's not to offend anyone. It's just what is. So it appears like that, you know, it appears. So boundless energy or boundlessness can also appear as that. But what's not real, or what is the dream, what is illusory, is that contractedness is owned. It becomes almost like solid, and it defines everything as a thing. It defines it as a thing. It defines everything else as a thing, and it becomes a whole personal journey. It becomes a whole the seriousness of that. You know, even in this apparent story and this character, there was such a seriousness of what is the next teaching, you know, what is new out there, what is, you know, of constantly seeking. But at the end of the day, when that just stopped, you know, nobody did it. It wasn't strived towards. It just apparently happened that it just ended. And what then was seen? What was then seen is that it never existed. It's not even that the me or this seeking or this striving thing comes to an end. What is seen, what is just seen, and it's so obvious to no one that it absolutely never existed. And then what happens? You just laugh. It's absurd. It's like, what? It's like yeah, but it, me goes like, it's like, but me, this is me. It's just, yeah, it's like, and when it's seen, it is such a non-event. It's not even something to because there's no one, where the me was on this journey to have this enlightenment and like, wow, I can go now and tell others, and I can speak to everybody how they can also get there or do that, That is a dream. Does not exist, never existed. No one is there to experience everything. This is simply whole and complete already. No one needed, none of us is, no one is needed for this to be what it already is. Nothing is needed. And that is freedom. That is liberation. As is, nothing added, nothing matters, nothing real.
Yeah, that's wonderful, John. That's a great, I loved the way you said that.
Surah,
There's just nothing at all, without referring to the mind and stories and language and words, which is all learned, conditioned things. What is there? There's just nothing. It's just free falling off a cliff. There's with nowhere to land at all. Sorry, Daron.
It's okay. I was just going to say, Surah says in chat, she says, I love what you have to say, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Does anybody else want to speak, ask a question, comment, or any of the speakers? Nickey, Kelly? Anything's coming up?
Free falling, it's just all free falling. And it's a lot less serious. I really like John laughing his head off there. I was laughing my head off there when John was laughing. And I was thinking, usually we're not muted so that the other person can hear the other person laughing. Because there is a lot of laughter about this subject. Like sometimes it can be very serious and we're going to discuss nothing about nothing, doing nothing. And it's really, oh gosh, it's so funny. It's so exciting, and it's like that childlike wonder. You do actually just laugh at everybody saying everything. Then I thought to myself, there I am shaking and giggling away, and it sounds like it's someone sharing something. Nickey, now come on now. It's like, no, it's fine. It's so fun and it's so great, and it's all the expression from everybody's individual way. And I always find it's a little bit humorous here. So I'm always sort of, this is the way this speaks, So no disrespect if someone's having a bit of a serious moment about it, nothing like that. But yeah, it is a lot of joy and a lot of fun and really great place to speak about it, because there's no actually other person I actually talk to. I just talked to Emerson down there about this. Otherwise, I don't ever talk to anyone really about this actual subject and this format or anything. So, such fun.
Thanks, Nickey. Anyone else like to speak? Questions, comments, shares?
Surah in chat says, so you may want it more than anything else in the world, but it may never occur. Who wants to jump in on that one?
This message is hopeless for the self, hopeless for that separate self. It truly is hopeless because it offers nothing, it offers nothing with the separate self, or the individual or the me can go away and like, wow, I got it. I get it now. Wow, finally, they just said it and now I get it. Nobody gets it, and I want to say that's beautiful, but I also know it can be terrifying. It seems terrifying, it says, seems terrifying to hear. I know from this, character, when I heard this speaking, this message, I was like, hell no, these people are crazy. It's ridiculous. what do you mean that I don't exist? What do you mean there's nothing in it for me? The search or the seeking was, I took it so serious, it was so personal. If anybody came to challenge that and to say, no, you've experienced nothing, that's not real. It felt insensitive, and it like, I wanted to say, screw you, man. Who do you think you are? This is my experience. You know what I'm saying? But what's seen, what then is seen, or what's recognized, is that that was never real. It's recognized by no one. No one sees it. It cannot be seen. It cannot be known. It cannot be understood. It is just this. It literally is just. It is so simple. It is so simple. The simplicity of this is what's missed by me, because me in its very nature is complicated. And what's the source of that complication with me? It's knowing. Because once me knows this, me wants to do this. And once me knows this, me wants to know this. It never ends. It never stops. And when that falls away, when that stops, it's just sublime. It's just like, this is as this is just as it is. Nothing to be added to this, for it to be something else. So, because there's nobody here, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And when the me heard this, it was what in one sense. I told Emerson when I spoke to him in the interview, I said to him, you almost get this feeling of this when when this message is heard. It's like, stop it, I don't want to hear it. But also somewhere there is like, but also I like it, stop it, I like it, I don't want it, but give it. So there is a resonance that's there, but there's also the me, or that energy that takes everything so personal, and because it takes it so personal, it takes it so serious. It can be terrifying because it offers nothing. It really offers nothing. Nobody gets this. None of anybody that's spoken here. None of the people here get it. And that's almost the paradox. Is a speaking, but nobody gets what they're speaking about. It's happening. It's just happening. It's appearing. And that's the freedom. That's absolutely the freedom of this.
Yeah, nice. Lovely.
Mm.
Yeah.
You could get a taste of it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to interrupt.
No, go on, Sarah. Go on.
You could get a taste of it though when you're not following the thought stream, and you kind of for a moment just notice what's here and now. And it's very peaceful, and really, if you're not believing any concept in your mind, nothing's happening. So you get a glimpse of that. I get it. It's kind of, but I can't live from there, so, but yeah. And also what I like a lot about this is the how do you say that? The ordinary, yeah. When you guys say it's nothing special, I actually like that a lot, because there's a strain to feeling special. There's like when people feel, I don't know if you ever had maybe so to speak, like before, like when there's some kind of arrogance, when you feel it doesn't feel good, it separates you, so being ordinary is just a relief in some way. I don't know, when it's just everybody's the same and it's just quite ordinary. I like that, so thank you.
Can I add on to what you just said, because I love what you just said there. That was beautiful, by the way. It's so ordinary that it wants to think itself extraordinary. And that's the irony of it. It really is the irony of it, is that it really is so vanilla, so basic, so simple. And yet that simplicity then wants to see that as the extraordinary part of it. And that to me is hilarious.
Oh,
does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like the ordinariness says, I'm so ordinary, I'm extraordinary. And then you start laughing again. And I think that's what was happening here as you were sharing it. I could feel the beauty of your words, but I was also laughing at how the ordinariness wants to make itself extraordinary. It's hilarious.
Well, I don't know if I actually, I totally hear what you're saying, but I think like what I meant was the relief in that, because not that it turns into extraordinary, it's just as a relief of being just not like, sometimes when you pretend, I don't know, this happens to me sometimes, like when you want to make yourself invisible and you kind of walk around, you want to be in your own little bubble and not, there's a relief in that. It's kind of, you just being nothing, just not, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
No, you said it perfectly. What I was saying was, what the busy mind here was relating to what you were saying. That's the hilarity of it, right? You absolutely, you delivered the point that you were trying to make. What I'm saying is that as you were making that point, I think it's important, especially for those of us who are, on here as speakers, to validate that the mind still goes constantly, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't ever stop. And that's what I think most of us end up laughing about, is if we could tell you the thoughts that are buzzing around still, it's just,
you're saying that you still have those kind of thoughts. That's what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
That you still have the thought, like, this is ordinary, but and somehow that makes it extraordinary. Is that
yes. Yes,
okay.
That's the important thing, is I don't identify that I'm having the thoughts. The thoughts are just happening and they're hysterical.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, many people will think we're crazy because we're laughing at this, but there's just nothing that bites a hold of that anymore. So I wanted to share that ordinariness here of this is still happening. This is all, these happenings are still happening. I think one of the things that I hear some folks say that are just maybe starting into this journey, and, I hear this a lot, is there ever a done? Whatever completes, what is a done? Except the thing that thinks there's a done. There's a thing that thinks there's a finality to this, like, I got it, now I'm good, right? And so I think you're pointing to that, and I wanted to just add to what was happening in the story of Kelly as you were pointing to that, the hilarity of the thoughts that were arising here. That still very much happens. There's just nothing that believes them anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And sometimes I could see now, like it's sometimes it seems like different characters, and it's kind of cartoony. It's sort of, I don't know if that ever comes up.
Absolutely cartoony.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like the 3-year-old gets to finally play. Yes.
Okay.
Just to add into that quickly, what Shura said about, she's getting a sense of it, and what, almost like she's kind of seeing it in this. I think that's what she said.
Cartoony.
Cartoony. It's almost like what apparently happens, even in the so-called dream, or even with a me, or the me owns it. There are moments of realizations. There are moments of, like, wow, it's like I've never seen this like I'm seeing it now, or or whatnot, or a sense of, wow, this is absolutely just a sense of stillness or whatever. So with the story of me, there are those experiences. What apparently happens, what seems to happen, is that people start to own it. People start to own it, and the way it's seen now is almost like a balloon. The me, the character of the personal character, it's almost like an inflated balloon.
Yeah, inflated.
Exactly. And so what happens with these glimpses? A little air is let out. Just surely little air is let out, and there's a bit of a lightness and a little bit of a release. But what happens in the story is that of me, it's me owns it. Me now says that's my experience. Me says I experienced this. I'm gonna go tell others, wow, I had this experience. And maybe if you do it this way, maybe if you meditate 2 hours a day, maybe if you listen to this teacher, maybe if you go there, maybe then that's then that's what happens in the story of me, basically in the dream.
Yeah, and
Because-
cause and effect is also very real. So they'll be like, okay, this brought me to here, and that brought me to there. And you said about the balloon, and I think sometimes you'll have like sometimes it'll just be a needle and a pop. Some people have that where it's like, you know, the whole thing collapses, and some have like where you slowly let the air out bit by bit. And I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I got that image.
Exactly. That's just an analogy to explain that when there's a speaking about this, this message of, you know, nothing and everything, wholeness, emptiness, fullness, emptiness, you know, there's no one that can pin. It's, as I think Anne mentioned earlier, the paradoxical, or Kelly spoke about that, you know, once there's a someone, or I don't know, but just the paradoxicalness of it, you know, says it's neither, but also it's both. But you see,
both simultaneously.
So when the me arises, and that comes, you know, and when a message like this is heard, what apparently happens is an openness starts to happen, and the me starts to almost like release a bit, and like the balloon with the air, until it pops, you know, until it just pops, and there's no more this center, and what is seen is that never was real. That never
But
existed.
it's inevitable that it pops, because then you're saying that you're giving us hope. You're saying, you know, you're letting out the air and then it pops. So that means if the air is being released, then I could expect the pop, right?
There's no hope here, because there's no one here. You know, there's no one here to begin with. There's no one on a journey. There's no one. There's nothing going to change from here till there. The me wants that. The me likes that story. The me enjoys to hear that, because it, as you said, in the dream, hope is very important for me. Hope is extremely important for me. Hope drives me. Hope gives me that sense of, you know, that something can change, something can happen here. But this, what has been what's spoken about here is that Surah, there is no Surah, and there is no joy. There is no you, there is no me to begin with, you know. And when the balloon pops, or when me seemingly falls, it's seen as clear, and it's so obvious that there is no Surah, and it's so obvious that there is no joy. It is absolutely obvious. But you know, that contracted, and nobody does it. So Surah cannot go away from this thinking, oh, it's going to happen to me one day. That's that hope. That's the me hoping. This happens, or it doesn't happen. You know, nobody does it. It's seemingly, I can't say to you, this is what this John character did to just, you know, to just be no more. The only thing is John has never existed, like Surah has never existed.
And you could see that, though. You could really see that when you're not. I don't know. I mean, you can't see my hands, but I guess like what I kind of imagine, it's like kind of like your thoughts. There's a story. It's not reality. I mean, we know it's not here and now. It's just kind of imagination. So there's a character that's in time and past, future, even present. You know. But when you're here now, there's no identity. Like when you're in the now, completely here without being absorbed in those thoughts. So that's what is. There really isn't an existence of that self outside of like that play in the mind that's going on. That's actually not real. So you're able to I intellectually know that, but yeah, the contraction or that felt sense is still very much alive. So yeah.
That is just.
I think we're coming to an end now, because we've gone a bit over time. We've gone about 2 hours. I know that there is one person still got their hand up, Anita, so I don't want to leave someone with a question. Would you like to speak, Anita? If you still got a question, Anita, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, it's more, you know, it feels, yeah, it's so obvious. Yeah, but it's more okay. What I'm doing in daily life often when there's negative energy, I take that in the body, and it feels like tension on my heart, and then I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that tension. And I think when it all collapses, it doesn't appear anymore. I hope so. But
anything can appear, pain can appear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything is allowed. It's not about avoiding feelings or thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That's life just happening, and it just appears that.
Yeah, I also know that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's no one doing that.
There was a coach, he told me, when there's enough light in your body, you don't attract those negativities anymore.
There's no one to attract them.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You're not attracting them. There's no one attracting them. That's just a story.
Yeah.
It's just a fear story.
Thank you.
Just before we go, Emerson, have we got literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yes, we do. Yes,
yeah,
we do.
because there's just 2 more questions in chat, and somebody just was asking if we could ask them. Maybe we could cut them a bit shorter. So to Anne, Anne, you said that so-called gurus and saints are not special. Are enlightened figures such as Jesus, Buddha, just ordinary, just like you and members of the panel?
Yeah, well, Jesus and Buddha, they're stories, aren't they? I mean, a story's a story. Who knows if that's real or not even? We're taught to believe it's real. I was quite involved in Christianity and I believed it was real, but that was seen through, and there's no one special because there is no one. Does that answer your question?
I think that's a good answer, Anne, and we are running out of time, so that's great. And the last question was from Walter. If anyone wants to jump in on this one, that the me isn't real is crystal clear, but that the body or this table is also real and unreal can be a bit confusing. Can someone clarify this? Objects being unreal. Who could do that in 2 minutes?
I could give it a go.
Is that John?
No, this is Howard.
Oh,
I think.
Who was going to go? Was that John?
No, it wasn't me.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Howard. 2 minutes, starting now.
Well, what you seem to be experiencing is not a moment in time and space, because there's no past and no future. So this is just a rough estimate here. I'm just goofing. But if the totality of existence is what you are experiencing at this moment, you are not separate from what you are observing. Okay. The illusion of consciousness is a you in time and space. But what you are experiencing is not relative to any other point of reference. So this moment is not present tense. You are not consciously aware of anything else. There is no separation between what appears to be a you observing other things is essentially one totality expressing a you observing things. So there is no table. There is no you observing a table. There's the illusion of separation in the form of consciousness in time and space, in this evolutionary form of a birth and a death, you know, in a natural cyclical series of events. But that is not what is. But conversely, I'd like to say it's just this can be infinite as well. It is invertly, infinitely nothing and everything. So it is both everything and nothing simultaneously in and of something other than simultaneity and dimensionality or temporal space. So what you're talking about is individual things relative to no other position than the appearance of a story of a person observing something else separate from itself. That is the long and the short of it.
Thanks, Howard. I hope that answered your question, Walter.
You're not
been a
separate
really,
from the table.
yeah,
There's
it's
no
been
you
it's been a really interesting conversation, and we're literally on about 2 hours. So maybe we could say thanks to Kelly and Nickey and John, and I'm sure we could carry on. We could go on for another hour.
Yeah.
What do you think, Anne?
Yeah, absolutely. I could go on all night, forever. Who knows? There isn't a forever. So yeah, it's just this, isn't it? Thank you, John. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Nickey. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Your contribution is really valued, and there's no one special here. There's no one here. And it's just been a great meeting. Nothing speaking at this meeting.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Anne.
everyone.
Thank you, Daron, for pressing all
Thanks.
the right buttons to unmute and
Oh, yeah, you're
giving me
welcome.
the questions and do
And,
that.
yeah, you're welcome. Does Emerson, did you
John
want to
and
say
Kelly,
something?
it's so nice to have our little pictures on our little boxes together.
I just wanted to share what Noel wrote earlier. He said he had this little vision of us continuing to show more and more people until no one and everyone is special.
I love it.
Nice. Yeah.
And I want everyone to mute, because the reason I call this show, what's the show titled again? Nothing
Hello.
Extra.
Love it.
Is everyone a mute? What's the show called again? Nothing Extra.
Extra.
Love
Thank
it.
you so much, everyone.
Just a really quick mention, Anne and I are doing a talk next Thursday, if anybody wants to come along.
Yeah, it's going to be advertised on Nothing FM, but I don't think it's up there yet, Emerson, is it?
Oh, it's live now. It's live
it's
now.
live? Okay.
It's live now, yeah.
Yeah,
Noel.
we'd love to see you all. It'd be fantastic.
Free biscuits for everyone.
That's right.
Nice. Nice. We'll hold you to that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John.
Free
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Nickey and Daron and Anne for helping me out here. This has been a great Nothing Extra. It worked. We'll do a Nothing Marathon soon. Maybe we'll do it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone, thanks for nothing.
Thanks for nothing. Love it. Bye, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.